Castletown, the capital of the Kingdom of Hyrule, though not the first, as that honor belongs to the Great Plateau, but still, this is the current home of Hyrule's elite and its royal family within Hyrule Castle. It is also the town that ceased to exist 100 years prior to the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, with only the castle and fountains remaining. And obviously, this is the point where I would love if you liked the video, subscribe if you haven't already, plus press that shiny notification bell and again for all notifications, before I warn you of late game spoilers from Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I'm not going to say this more than once, as Hyrule Castle Town wasn't what we expected it to be in Age of Calamity, namely a battle stage in its prime and possibly even the entire game's hub world, where we could pay for upgrades, customize, and most of all explore before malice covered its streets, roofs, and walls. Just imagine the contrast between Castletown in its prime and then Castletown under Ganon's occupation. This was no doubt a missed opportunity, as it is highly unlikely that we'll be able to explore the once glorious streets and squares of Castletown in Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, unless there is a massive rebuilding effort, but with Mr. Malice Eyes over here, I wouldn't exactly get high hopes for that. What's worse is that before the Calamity hit in Age of Calamity, we barely saw Castletown in cutscenes apart from being incinerated in the opening cutscene. In fact, the closest we ever got to pre-Calamity Castletown are these two screenshots, which aren't even present in the game. Let me reiterate, there were no cutscenes where Link and Zelda walk through the town like they did through Outpost Town in Chapter 2. The closest we got to the town before late game was the king standing on top of its main gate before the first mission in the game. The capital is there, teasing us, but we don't get to explore and run around Hyrule Castle Town until the late stage of the second to last main quest mission, All Hyrule United. In return, we get to explore, or more precisely fight in Castletown in two modes, Occupied Fire and Darker Than You Want Blood Moon Red. For the sake of your convenience, nearly all of the comparison will contain the former rather than the latter, as it makes things far more visible and also shows the contrast of how rather substantial parts of this Castletown survived the Calamity due to one decision in Age of Calamity: King Rhoam's evacuation order. Thanks to Terraco's advanced warning of the date of the Calamity in the world of ruin, the streets and homes of the capital were deserted when the Calamity struck the day before Zelda's birthday, and thus did not become a prime target to incinerate by Ganon, unlike Hyrule Castle, the piloted Divine Beasts, Akkala Citadel, Fort Ateno, and the Great Plateau. In other words, in Age of Calamity, Castletown is standing, though it is to some extent damaged, and naturally in some portions covered in malice, as you will soon find out. We'll begin our exploration from the main gate, where King Rhoam made his speech to his soldiers in advance of the first battle of Hyrule Field in the game. So it's time to tell you how our sightseeing tour of Hyrule's rather expansive capital will work. But before we begin, keep in mind that Age of Calamity's Castletown, much like the Great Plateau in our previous episode, is a smaller, more compact version of the one found in Breath of the Wild. In other words, most key landmarks are present but might be located in different positions than in the other. To get a real proper comparison, let's walk up from the sacred grounds, through the main gate, and then turn left to see West Castletown. Now then, let's turn on the music and get a side-by-side comparison as we enter Castletown. Welcome to Castletown, and the first distinction that I want us to observe is this curious architectural phenomenon not found in any other settlements. One building that in reality is three, one on each side and a connecting in the middle hanging over the street. All obviously in the traditional for fantasy games and anime half-timbered style, so characteristic to all towns across Germany. Alright, it's time to head for the town square in West Castletown. West Castletown Square. Not much is found here reminding a square in Breath of the Wild, but look at the handsome square we got in the likely poorest district of the capital in Age of Calamity. Single, 2, and even 3-story buildings, which are a recurring sight across the capital of the Kingdom of Hyrule. Obviously, this location is further away from the wall in Breath of the Wild, as in reality, West Castletown was more spread out and less urbanized. By that I mean that this square was located further up north from the town wall. It appears that they simply cut out the less urbanized portions of West Castletown to deliver us a more impressive overall urban environment. Now with that figured out, let's move on towards the water reservoir, which we can nicely compare between Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild side by side. Obviously, the reservoir is located further away from buildings in the open world of Breath of the Wild, and in Age of Calamity is much more compact as the stream of water going through Castletown ends here. More regarding those details in East Castletown. Since after moving around the reservoir of the town, let's head towards the gate which led us across to the ruins of Hyrule Castle Town prison. But conveniently, the path to the northwestern gate of Castletown to the prison island is blocked by thick malice, with no way around, so let's head east towards East Castletown. In Breath of the Wild, we can cross from northwest to northeast central Castletown after clearing away malice, no problem. But in Age of Calamity we have a little obstacle or cage of a malice lino. Alright, we're now on the eastern side of the central Castletown, and let's put on the music as we walk up from here to the first big landmark of our tour. Hyrule Cathedral. As the name suggests, the main site of worships for citizens of Castletown, and to some extent the entire kingdom of Hyrule, a possible burial place of the royal family of the House of Hyrule, which we cannot confirm as the path to the cathedral is sadly blocked by malice, so it isn't explorable from the inside or even a closer proximity, much like what was the case for the Eastern Abbey on the Great Plateau. Luckily, unlike the Eastern Abbey where we only got a frontal view, in the case of Hyrule Cathedral we have the previously mentioned screenshot which shows the extent of it, and in Breath of the Wild we were able to explore its interiors, well, its ruins. East Castletown is in many ways the most thickly covered in malice area of Castletown, as we have to follow a narrow path around the malice to reach our next destination and landmark found in Eastern Castletown in Age of Calamity, the Castletown Watchtower. In Breath of the Wild we could obviously enter inside its ruins, while in Age of Calamity we have to be satisfied with admiring this former structure used for scouting by the Royal Armed Forces within Castletown. Behind it we also see a different landmark, which is unclear to identify from our point of view, but which is pretty clear to be a stone water aqueduct from this screenshot, leading fresh mountain water down from the lands of Zora Kingdom to the capital of the Kingdom of Hyrule. And that is pretty much when it comes to recognizable landmarks found in both Age of Calamities and Breath of the Wild's Hyrule Castle Towns. But before we focus on its center of commerce, I want to do two speed-up side-by-side comparisons along the two circular streets of central Castletown, much like in the animation you just saw. How are we all doing after exploring most of Castletown? Good. Then let's conclude it by once again walking through the main gate of the town. And here we are, in the heart of Castletown and all of Hyrule, for which we can see both of the watchtowers in the west and east, a circular square surrounded by damaged half-timbered tenement, and regular houses of single, 2 and 3 stories. The fountain with the 3 loft wings in the middle, and on the northern side of the square we only see one thing, the moat, and across it Hyrule Castle, which dominates the northern view of the entire square. A beautiful example of a royal way, leading down from the town's main gate, across its main square, and up to its main seat of power, Hyrule Castle, which after defeating the Malice Lionel that we previously spoke of, we will compare side by side between Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild in a future video. 3,000 likes or 50,000 views on this video and it will go up. So be sure to press that like button, share this video so more people can watch it, and bring it up to the views target. If you don't want to miss the next Zelda and Nintendo videos, then be sure to press that red subscribe button to turn it grey, plus ring that notification bell, and again for all notifications. A big thanks as always goes to our patreon.com/commonroad patrons, and in particular our royal producer Charles Shash. last but not least, enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.